Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This is a call to order for the Aspen City Council regular meeting for January 23rd, 2024. Could we have a roll call for attendance, please?
Councillor Doyle.
Here.
Councillor Guth.
Here.
Councillor Howenstein.
Here.
Councillor Rose.
Here.
Mayor Tory.
Here as well. With no scheduled public appearances this evening, that brings us right to citizens' comments and petitions. It's an opportunity for members of the public to address council on items that are not scheduled for a public hearing. We do ask that you limit your comments to about 3 minutes to give everybody an equal opportunity to speak. Are there members of the public that wish to speak this evening? Come on up, Peter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. My name is Peter Fornell. I know we all know each other. I am going to speak tonight about a matter that is on your agenda. It's not a public hearing, so I hope that you'll give me the 3 minutes, and thanks. The city's considering or contemplating tonight the purchase of a one-bedroom, one-bath condominium located over on the corner of Durant and West End Street. The unit is a one-bedroom, one-bath unit that the purchase price is $1.1 million. I just want to make sure that you guys have taken the time to do the math to understand that a $1.1 million purchase of that property represents a $684,000 per FTE purchase of that property. The current cash and loan number at Category 4 is $308,000, which means that you'll be using 4 FTEs of affordable housing mitigation to purchase 1.75 FTEs of affordable housing. It's pretty dastardly. You know, about 15 years ago, the city of Aspen adopted the Affordable Housing Certificate Program, a program that was awarded a National Planning Award for its inception. I think everybody's quite proud of it. I am too, because I was a part of it. Since that time, it's been badly uncared for and mismanaged. In the last 3 years, the price of vacant land inside the city limits of Aspen has gone up in the range of about 70%. It's a safe statement. The price of construction has gone up more than 60% in that 3-year time period. I defer to your community development director to be accurate, so I could be wrong, but I believe in those 3 years, the cash and loan number's gone up by 4%. You know, it should come as no surprise to you that there are no private sector affordable housing projects contemplated right now because you simply can't exist in that environment. And not only that, but when you take cash in lieu from a developer that only mitigates less than 50% of the cost of creation of what they're doing, you're providing a benefit to a developer, and you're taking away the obligation of that person to the city of Aspen and all of its residents. So, you know, I want to make sure that you understand that the longer the Affordable Housing Certificate Program has gone without consideration, the more likely it is that you will never see a project go on. And the disparity between the cash and lieu number and the cost of creation has gotten wider and wider over time to the extent that it just can't happen. And I have to say respectfully that the longer you've been sitting at this table, the more responsible you are for the demise of that private sector program that won a national planning award. So I urge you to take your time and realize that the current notion of what the cost of creation of affordable housing from a requirement standpoint for development nowhere near resembles the cost of creation, and you're proving it to yourselves in this purchase that you're contemplating tonight. I'm not telling you that it's a bad purchase. I'm just asking you to find the reasonability in the example that I'm making. And if anybody had a question or further comment about that, I would.
Mind if I ask a question? Thanks. Thanks, Peter. Was the project next to the Ice Garden the most recent of your projects?
No, that was the first one, actually. The first project was at 301 Hyman. Second came the project on Main next to the Mesa store. Third were the 8 affordable housing units I did at the Aspen Airport Business Center. And then there's a couple of smaller things that I've done that were just buy downs, which effectively that's what you're doing, is you're doing a buy down. That $1.1 million purchase could very well be causing someone else who'd like to be a local person in the free market to lose an opportunity to buy. So you are competing with the people that don't fit into the APCHA window there. I want to make sure that you understand what you're doing there too, and creating a lower inventory for that segment of our local market.
Certainly. I guess it doesn't so much matter which I was hopeful was that one, because there's a certain amount of density there that I think establishes a development cost that's spread across a reasonable number of FTEs. But let's use that one as the example. If you were to redevelop that one today, where would you estimate your per FTE development cost to be?
Well, it'd be north of 500,000 if to give you the quick answer. But to do the math, I'd have to do the math. But that was 15 years ago. What's the value of that land today? What's the cost of creation? And the square footage. But certainly, it would be north of $500,000, and I think it would approach, the price that you guys are paying today for it. But you're going to put one of your employees in it. You're likely going to set it up at Category 4. The Category 4 cash and loan number is $308,000, and you're paying $684,000 in FTE, which means that somewhere we're not minding our business. And I believe that where we're not minding our business is in making sure that the cash and loan number is representative of the cost of creation in case you're forced to have to do it by taking people's money.
All right, let's communicate separately a little bit more on that, because
I appreciate that, Bill,
I'd love
and
to understand.
to all of you for my time, as I always appreciate it.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, guys.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see all of you.
Other members of the public that wish to make comments this evening? In room? Looking online as well? One more call for public comment this evening. Seeing none, we'll move on our agenda. That brings us down to council members' comments. Council members, comments this evening? John?
Yeah, I'd like to start with two articles that appeared in the local papers earlier this week. Aspen was recognized as a global climate action leader, partially because of our commitment to adopting the building IQ codes. Also, Aspen saw a positive impact with organic waste diversion ordinance. There was a specific quote about late last year, I think our highest organic waste diversion was 21 tons during a complete month. And on, I think it was December 26th, we hauled 26 tons of organic waste. So I think that speaks for itself. It's been a huge success, and I'm excited to implement it farther when the time comes. Thanks.
Thanks, Sean. Sam?
Yeah, my one comment tonight is in our information packet, we had a memo regarding construction site beautification, and city staff was looking for city council to see if there's a majority to amend the CMP language to require or encourage public art and construction site fencing, and I'd like to amend it to encourage public art on construction fencing moving forward, if I can get a majority from the rest of the council on that.
I haven't seen the info memo. I've been talking about this for a while, so I'm supportive, but I don't know the details of what was shared, so.
Oh, it's in the information memo, yep.
Other council members with support or comments?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, I'm supportive of it, but would like to restrict it to the central resort area. That way, I think it makes sure there's an impact where it counts, and I also like the idea of encouraging it rather than requiring it.
Yeah.
I honestly haven't seen the memo yet, so I'm going to reserve comment, but I do generally support art in public places.
Thanks, Ward. I don't know, because I don't know the content of it, I don't know if the information memo, which by title is information only, is a call for some motion here at the table, or if this conversation is going to come up at another time.
What is helpful to me is understanding if this will take more than 2 hours of staff time, and so if there's general agreement that we should be preparing something in the CMP to bring back to you.
Then yes.
There we go.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I thought we already had public art on buffers and,
It is not an incentive, it is an option right now, nor is it a mandate.
Thank you, Sarah. Any other comments tonight? Thanks. Yep. Sure, Bill?
Thanks. Three things tonight. Wanted to check in on how the enhanced maintenance of the bikeways is going. I know that's something we started recently. Would sort of like to hear from staff's perspective how that's going. See if you need anything from us to accomplish that.
Thanks for the follow-up on that. Matt Kuhn, I'm Parks and Open Space Director.
Tyler Kristoff, Deputy Public Works.
So we've been working, I guess there's no one from engineering here. We've developed kind of an interim strategy plan that we've been implementing. It's twofold. It's as our parks crews are heading out to their routes, they're dropping their blade and doing an initial pass, and then it's also been added to a streets route. And so between that kind of shared effort, I think we're seeing some successes in trying to keep ice down. Thankfully, for this reason, we have a relatively low snow year. I think it's still a little bit to be determined if we get some big dumps, how that's going to play out over longer sustained snowstorms. But we're pretty positive so far with our results, and it's likely something that has not added a tremendous amount of additional burden. But we'll see how it plays out the rest of the year.
Great. Thanks.
Anything else?
I think you covered it.
All right, thanks.
Secondly, I've talked a few times, and I think the staff response was that they were going to look into it and get back to us, but about stop signs on Garmisch and Aspen at the Durant intersections. I have not heard any follow-up on that.
I don't know it off the top of my head, so I'm going to need to get back to you. I apologize not having it tonight.
Thanks. Unless Tyler knows.
Do you know the Durant stop sign
Yeah,
analysis?
so Bill, just specifically, I think you've brought up Durant, Garmisch, and Durant and Aspen Street, correct?
Right now, they're two-way, or one of them, it's only a stop sign on one side of the three-way intersection, I think. But
Yep. So I think it was just before the end of the year, there was an information-only memo on that subject. It outlined some of the strategies that the city was working on, both from a snow removal and de-icer strategy, and then also a long-term design of specifically the Durant and Garmisch intersection as it related to sidewalk, intersection control, and pedestrian crossing. So more to come on that. That's a 24 capital project that will be coming in front of council for consent.
okay, thanks. I guess I'm looking for a simple answer, like, does it warrant putting a stop sign there? Is that something we can do? Stop sign, I don't think, is a major capital project.
Yeah, so I think the info-only memo outlined that we didn't feel that a stop sign was warranted. Aspen Street, there's been a lot of work on the stop sign dynamic at that intersection over the years with bus traffic, vehicle traffic being able to stop or not stop coming down Aspen Street. Garmisch is not geometrically aligned in a way that a stop sign, I think, could be positioned to be effective. So we did not move in that direction at this time.
Okay, well, thanks for looking into it. Those intersections do scare me, so I hope that we can contemplate some way to enhance the safety for pedestrians and bikers and vehicles at both of those intersections.
Can I ask you a question? Are you just focused on stop signs, or are there other
No,
improvements?
maybe there are other improvements, yeah. But, I have had several close calls. I often bike along Durant to and from the bike path that goes along the south side of Coke Park. And they're just like scary intersections. There's buses that are flying around the corner. There's cars that are confused. People going up and down the hill on, I guess that's Garmisch, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Don't really know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, the Aspen Street intersection's been talked about forever. We actually did change the stop signs around for, I think, a season back a couple of years or so ago. But nonetheless, you're saying that that is an area of interest that you are looking at.
The Garmisch Durant.
Specifically.
Yep.
Okay.
And so the council will see that in the next few months.
Okay.
Thanks, that's great. And then lastly, I had a very productive meeting, interesting meeting, talking about sharing some of my ideas for traffic flow improvements on Highway 82. Some of them staff had already contemplated, some of them may have been new, some of them may be good ideas, some of them may be bad ideas, but I wanted to make sure that they were out there and being considered. But what became clear to me is that staff is still exploring different alternatives for the entrance to Aspen. And I think that it would be most productive if we could get them focused on one thing at a time. So my request of everyone at the table would be to see if you support staff focusing exclusively on the existing alignment in their efforts right now and concentrating their work efforts there. I think it's the most likely thing to be digestible by our community and accomplishable in our lifetimes. So I'd like to concentrate efforts there. Wanted to check in with everyone on that.
I don't support eliminating the preferred alternative.
Thanks. Any other comments, or would you guys like some more information? We have Pete here in the room with us to refresh everybody about what work is being done. Do you need to know any of that?
I would just say I thought the direction we gave when we talked about this last was to study the current configuration to see if it was plausible to do it that way and then move on to other options afterwards. I thought that was the direction given. Because I don't know if we can keep the current configuration while replacing a bridge, and so I think that's the work I thought that we had to be done.
Pete, can I ask you to just come over and share with us what you, the work plan that's already kind of outlined, and, because I think some of Bill's requests and ideas are in the scope of what you're looking at.
Sure, and I've asked Jen to come to the table as the project manager.
Oh, great.
Okay, so the direction that we are given is similar to what Sam discussed, where it's looking at the bridge, the phasing, the construction aspects, the cost, and we're looking at that piece of like what can be done with the existing bridge. The second piece of your direction was looking at the S-curves and figuring out like what we can do to improve outbound traffic was the exact direction on that piece. And then the other piece that we're coming back with was a lot of the environmental impacts like EIS, record of decisions, what are the impacts to moving away from the preferred alternative and like how those options play out. So we are pretty much focused on the direction you gave us at this point, but it's really important that you keep in mind the current federal document and like what are the impacts if we choose to go down a different path from the record of decision. Does that sound like the direction you gave?
I want to have full consideration. It's going to be a 50-year at least decision. I want to know if at all possible to do the S-curves. If so, what are the costs, acquisitions, time, all of that. And that I think is what is in the scope of work now. Before I can make a decision on the existing alignment or the preferred alternative, I have to have all the data points on the existing alignment. So, I look forward to seeing that information back to fully vet both alignments.
If I may, certainly that is the scope of work in general, but we won't have specific how much does something cost to acquire property. That is outside the scope of what we were looking at, but it will have what are the bounds of how to make changes to the S-curves, what are the trade-offs in making some of those decisions. So it's not as granular as you would need this amount of right-of-way.
But it will show
it would cost
road
this
alignments?
much. I'm sorry?
Road alignments and widths.
Yes.
My hope, and again, this is sort of what I thought we had set in motion last we discussed I think it was a consent calendar item or something relating to further consultant studies for the preferred alternative. But what I was hopeful would happen, and what I still am hopeful would happen, is a holistic traffic flow improvement study from, I believed we agreed, the majority of us agreed on using the intercept lot as the starting point all the way to the core. And in both directions, traffic flow in both directions, how to improve that using the existing alignment. And I, for now at least, I would like that to be the focus. I think there's just too much out there, too many options. I don't think we're going to get anywhere unless we can narrow our focus and give staff some very clear direction.
The issue here is that it's a state highway, so us giving clear direction to our staff, which we've done, is to investigate what it takes to get through these hurdles, to make some of the actual physical improvements that we've talked about. We have sometime in April, to come back with some of the work that you're doing that includes the S-curve investigation, light timing improvements, outbound lanes, roundabout, open space changes, all that stuff. Should be a discussion in April as of right now.
Yes, we haven't set a date yet, but it's coming.
When, are we coupling that with the information we got from the bridge inspection, or are we gonna be visiting the bridge inspection information prior to April?
That'll all come in April.
Okay. Is that work on a schedule for April, or is it possible to see it any sooner than that?
They're pretty timed. I can ask the question again. I would say that we were looking at an earlier date, and the consultants felt like they needed this amount of time to complete it and get ready for a presentation of that magnitude.
Okay. This end of the table?
I don't think we should take anything off the table as far as the entrance to Aspen is concerned. Again, the state owns the highway.
Sam, any input?
I had already said,
Okay.
yeah.
Again, I'm just fearful that we're going to continue talking in a circular fashion about this in our time up here. The next, 10, 12 councils are going to continue doing the same thing until this bridge falls down, unless we can get more narrow and give very clear direction. And yes, of course, the state owns the highway, but I think that the direction of which primary strategy to pursue comes from us. And it's been talked about for 50-plus years. Nothing's been done about it. I don't want to be the one to do nothing about it. So I'm encouraging all of you to try to make some preliminary decisions in your mind now so that we can give some clear direction so we can actually try to accomplish something.
Sounds good. I mean, they are pursuing the direction that is along the lines of exactly what you're saying. They've also just said that the timeline for that is to return in April. They'll make another request to
Make
see if
another
there's
effort.
if there's any possibility to get that to us sooner than that, but that's kind of where we are right now. I mean, we couldn't construct an effective conversation between now and with this work that's going on. The conversation that's coming to us in April possibly is sooner than that, but
One thing I think we could do is to signal to CDOT that we, as a council, are committed to replacing the Castle Creek Bridge. And I don't think that step has even been taken.
So I would encourage us to have that conversation in April. There is some commitments in the record of decision that are the financial responsibility of CDOT to the current bridge if the alignment changes. There's still, while we're spending this time locally looking at this issue, there's still a position held by CDOT that their intentions are to implement the preferred alternative. So I would not get too focused quite on that piece. What CDOT is looking for from us is a resolution of whether we wish to fund ourselves, them preparing another record of decision, or if we send them a resolution that says, please move forward with the preferred alternative. So even if we look at these other design tweaks that will have some limitations that we want to bring back to you so you fully understand that, the pros and cons in your decision making. Anything else to add?
That was good.
Sarah, I was following along with the closed caption up here on the screen. Can you just restate that? You're saying that there will come a time by resolution for a seated council to signal to CDOT either a preferred alternative support or yeah, okay.
Essentially, if you want to move it sooner, however, if the bridge rating falls low enough, CDOT's going to move forward and not really take any local voice into the conversation.
Okay.
So if you want to be ahead of the bridge reaching that point, then that's where you need to either make the decision to request and fund, which is not an inexpensive cost, a new record of decision, because the state and the feds will not pay for another one when they believe there is a current accurate one on file, or to direct CDOT that you're interested in moving forward. And so remember, even when you start that resolution to go forward, if you choose the preferred alternative, it doesn't happen quickly because you have easily a decade, 6 years to a decade to even try to work through the funding component of the project as well. So I really discourage us from getting to the point where we start seeing weight restrictions on that bridge. It will hamper the community greatly.
Well, and this is why we commissioned the work to find out about the current state of the bridge. So the sooner that we can have that information back, the sooner we can kind of continue this conversation. If that information was available prior to the work session in April, I think that council members would want to see it.
So let me get a little more specific. And Pete and Jen, please correct me if I'm wrong here. We do not have a consultant engaged right now to do the traffic flow improvement study that I discussed. The consultant that is doing work right now is on the bridge replacement work only, right?
It's pieces that would improve congestion, but the study that you're looking for was not approved last May, and we came back through your top goals, and one of those was that study that you're discussing. In April, we're going to come back and give you what you wanted was options on what the study could be. We know where you're going with it right now, but we still have to formalize what a traffic study is with you and what you want to see out of it.
That's where I'm trying to give you some
Yeah,
direction
so we
ahead
have
of time
not.
here.
Yeah.
So could you, in 1 or 2 sentences, summarize what the consultants are working on today?
The consultants are working on the existing bridge, assessing the existing bridge, how it could be constructed, phasing, if you were to reconstruct the bridge in the same place it is, some of the ramifications and cost of that, the record of decision and some of the changes of what's leaving in FEIS and what isn't, which is all the federal document. That's a big part in all this, and so that's a piece. And then your S-curve improvements through that corridor are basically the key components that we are directed to achieve for this next one.
Thank you. So I would now turn to you guys and say, is the results of that consultant work going to influence, if we wait till April, whether you decide to stick with the current alignment or pursue something different? If not, I think we would all benefit as a community from providing more clear direction now so that they can continue to hire additional consultants to work on one thing or the other. So will, based on the results of that study, is that going to change your thought process?
I'll chime in on that. You know, it's a decision that has to be made with all available data, and it will affect my decision. I'll have a better. I'm generally there's a 50-50 split in the community, and Bill, I know that you have campaigned for the S-curves. And I know that there are a lot of people that want the S-curves. Before I fully get behind a preferred alternative, which I think is the straightest path forward to getting a new bridge, before I commit to that, I want to fully explore the possibilities of using the existing alignment in respect for all of the people in this town that want that alignment, and respect for you, Bill, who have expressed your preference for that alignment. And I'm not going to eliminate that until I have all the data points, and this April decision is going to help me with that.
Thanks.
My biggest question is how you replace the current bridge and keep the current configuration at the same time, and that's something I hope comes to us in April to understand that, and that's the biggest deal to me. Yeah.
John, any comments?
I thought what Ward said nailed it.
I've expressed my support for improvements to the current alignment. I'd like to figure out how to get there. You know, to me, there's more work that I think you and I need to do to get a package of ideas that are approachable. Because what we're hearing is because of the regulation that's placed on this roadway by CDOT, the process to even implement stuff requires us to go through their approval, their agreement or whatever, and I think that's gonna take us taking it to them. I don't see any work that we can do or direction that we can give that is going to impact that at this time. So I'm all for working on this. I'd love to see this on our work session schedule. But before I even look at that, I would say, Bill, we got work to do.
Yeah, well, thanks to all of you for considering this, and I hope you keep that sort of question at top of mind and realize how long this takes, how much work needs to go into this. I think it's impossible to get every single data point, as Ward spoke about. I'm not saying that to criticize you, I'm just saying it's impossible. There's always gonna be a certain degree of unknown here, and some risk here, and that's the reality of it, and we need to be brave and make some decisions and give some clear direction if we want to get anything done. I think being, being split as a community or a council on this will just wind us back in the same place we are today, and I think it's an untenable situation. I mean, this traffic situation is impeding quality of life for everybody. City residents, people who work in our community, people who visit our community, our environment, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let's do something about it. Let's be brave. Let's move quickly. Let's see what we can get done. Thanks for considering it. That's it for my comments.
Thanks, Bill. Board public comment this evening?
No comments this evening.
Thank you. I have just a few items, really quickly. I mentioned at our work session yesterday that I would reach out to Next Gen members. I have done that. I called those Next Gen members today. The truth is that there really only were 3 remaining members. I had some great conversations with them, both understanding the position that they're in now, but also some suggestions for improvement or moving forward, not necessarily with Next Gen, but just to maintain the accessibility for the voice of that generational segment that we've outlined from Next Gen. Along with that, I also had conversations last week with 2 civics teachers at the high school. And the interest there was I'm interested in connecting the high school leadership, meaning the student body leadership, to this council a little bit better, maybe offering them an avenue for comment. Obviously, they have it now, but working with the high school and the civics teachers and classes in order to kind of create a stronger municipal and school bond. I'll be sending you guys an email just to update you on what those conversations look like now. It really won't be anything necessarily formalized from the city side, but just giving an avenue perhaps to high school and middle school spokespersons. So I'll bring that back to you. With that, we look at agenda amendments. I don't see any this evening, and it brings us to city manager's comments.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of council. I have a few updates for you tonight. The first one is I wanted to let you know with Burlingame 3 sales, we have 52 units that have closed and folks are in. We have an additional 15 units under contract right now. 2 are in lottery process, so initial buyers declined and it works its way down until there's a taker in that lottery results, or if someone really we get to the end and no one took it, which is going to be shocking if it happens, it will go out back to relottery. We have 5 units that have still yet to go through a lottery, and we're making arrangements with APCHA for that lottery. Our intention is with these items that are lotteried here in 2024 is we will be switching to the 2024 maximum sales price that is controlled by APCHA and setting that. If any of you have concerns with that, let me know, but otherwise that is my intention to sell them at the 2024 maximum sales price, and that aligns with your policy direction. The other thing I wanted to let you know is about the Armory. Just a quick update that we had 16 respondents to the request for proposals, a very high quality response rate and quality proposals. Staff is going through those. We have a team with quite a variety of different disciplines on it, evaluating those to bring you a recommended vendor here. Probably, actually I hate to say which quarter because we have to get through negotiations. Second quarter is probably the safe zone for it. Okay. If you haven't seen the notice yet, mark your calendars for February 10th and join us out at the ARC for the first ever Art Cart Alpine Rally. So this was bringing back, as you discussed in budget, bringing back the cart rallies. We still don't think quite Aspen Street's ready for this, but we'll be using the sledding hill over at the ARC for this. And there's a lot of additional support and community events associated with it, but 5:30 to 8 p.m. Is the event. It will be a party on the sledding hill, and there are both children and adult categories for racing and for everything from the fastest cart to the most original. So I encourage you to come out that day and support this activity. I also wanted to just let you know we will, I think we will issue you in the April packet, if not sooner, a map that shows the area covered by the record of decision. So the record of decision is not just this little bridge part, but it actually does stretch to the Brush Creek Park and Ride with its recommendations and its expectations. So just as you're thinking through your desires for that traffic analysis report, I just want you to know what was contemplated in the record of decision that extends that far away. The last thing is I wanted to invite you to read a book with me. It's called The Bill of Obligations. It's by Richard Haas. And this is an effort led by our colleagues over at Colorado Mountain College for a few months long here this spring, community dialogue around our obligations as residents of America and the things we need to do to ensure that the democratic principles continue to be alive and well in our local communities as well as in our nation. Walter Isaacson is also involved in this project with Mary Louise Kelly. And so I think if you're not familiar, Mary Louise Kelly is the co-host of All Things Considered on NPR. There's a lot of opportunities to engage with your fellow residents of the Valley on this project, and we'll be inviting staff to join us as well. I've gotten about a third of the way through the book, and I find this to be a very important reminder about how to use civil discourse to move our country forward. That's it for me.
Thank you. Board reports this evening? Board updates? Yep, John?
Let's see. Board of Health, do you want to do that?
Go right ahead if you've got your notes in front of you.
Okay. Pretty short meeting. We approved the 2024 meeting dates, adopted a working agreements review. We are scheduled to do our online Board of Health training and also lessons learned from COVID. Or to always update our emergency plans, always have a staff training plan, and always have internal guidance for communications during emergencies. Nordic Council also was last week. Howie Mallory suggested planting trees to produce more shade for cross-country ski trails as our winters get warmer. We are not printing any more printed trail maps because they have a habit of getting left by the side of the trail. Trail update, the groomers were finally able to groom all the way down to Mid-Valley. Basalt Elementary is looking to start a cross-country ski program, mimicking our program here at the Aspen Elementary School. And we were also finally able to groom Owl Creek all the way to Snowmass. And APCHA, you want to take that one? That was
we covered pretty much everything.
last night. I think we did too. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. I don't think you made last.
No, but new RAFTA CEO Kurt Ravenschlag.
It's in process.
Yeah.
There are things in process over there. I'm going to hold my comments on my board reports this evening for RAFTA and catch everybody up at our next monthly with that one. This will bring us to our consent calendar this evening. Consent calendar consists of resolution number 12. This is capital reserve assessment for HOA. This is the contract for the study and proposals. Resolution number 13, Tymco DST6 street sweeper replacement. Resolution number 14, Farm Collaborative Construction Payment Agreement. Resolution number 15, Ajax roofing contract for snow retention system at Burlingame Phase 3. Resolution number 16, purchase of 601 Southwest End Street, unit number 13. Resolution 18, amending the City of Aspen Agritourism Promotion Fund Agreement. And the draft minutes of January 9th. Are there any items that council members wish to pull for further discussion tonight? Bill?
15, 16, 18, please.
15, 16, and 18. Any others? All right, let's start with resolution number 15. This is the roofing contract.
Thanks, gents. I'd like to have a little bit of discussion about why we're doing this now. Certainly understand the need for it. Pretty obvious to me. Needed on pretty much all buildings in Aspen. Why are we doing this now? Why was it not part of the CM scope when you hired Shaw Construction? Why is this missed? Why are we needing to deal with this as sort of an unplanned expense at the moment?
Bill, try to add some detail to the memo.
Introduce yourself for the record, please.
Perry Cleespies, capital asset. In the memo, we try to explain a summary of the history of the design. The original design of the project did not have any snow retention. Once the buildings were erected, the city staff walked around the project and identified areas we thought would have value to add snow retention. We tasked the general contractor, Shaw Construction, with sourcing a supplier and a design. Normally the supplier does shop drawings. They take the architectural drawings and they come up with the structural calcs on what systems are needed where on the roofs. And that process got drawn out to the point where we ended up taking it over personally. We were very disappointed in Shaw's management of that process. Fast forward to earlier this fall, and the time that we had the design resolved with the snow retention company, TRA, in Salt Lake, the lead time on the material was going to require that Shaw Construction stay on longer than the owner insurance program, the OSIP. That program costs $60,000 a month to maintain for that insurance alone. And we've thought it best to allow Shaw to demobilize since they were getting ready to finish the project anyway. We would take that on directly and allow the OSIP to expire, let them leave, and then we would take it on contract directly, and that is what we have in front of you today.
Thank you. I agree with that decision, but what I'm getting at is, maybe I should ask this as a question. The construction documents never showed snow retention systems and gutters on them, is that correct?
So they did not have snow retention. They did have gutters, and very, very few. And again, that was something that we went through and added a bunch more gutters that were originally shown after the buildings were erected to understand main pathways and walkways to add gutters. And then, unfortunately, on a project of this size, you have to coordinate all your added gutters with the civil engineer for stormwater management. It takes quite a bit of time and grading adjustments as well for those downspout locations. So on top of that, the heat trace, each gutter gets it's a heated cable. And so we had the electrical engineer have to engineer all the circuits for all the gutters we added, and it compounds to quite a bit of scope. But yeah, again, the snow retention piece, because of the engineering part of it and the compounding snow loads, you know, when 50% of the roof really needs snow retention, you have to stop the snow from all the roofs above it going back down to those lower roofs. And it's quite a bit of back and forth to get it without doing the entire roof of all 13 buildings out there. But really happy with partnering with Ajax Roofing. They were highly recommended to us by TRA, the snow company, snow fence retention company, and they were helpful with also making adjustments to the design that we had on what they saw was best from their best practices. So.
Understood, thanks, and I think they are a great company, so I support that. Here's what I'm trying to get at, Perry. Did the city staff or any members of the design team during their role as developers in this project say, why are there so few gutters? Why is there no snow retention system on our construction documents?
So I'm going to step in here.
Okay.
A few things is, first, we can go back and review that specific thing and go through our owner's reps notes and all of that for you if you want. But I also recognize that our projects have an element of field design. And there was a component of field design that had to happen in order to make the project safe and to do it in the most cost-efficient way. And that's why we have this contract before you, council, tonight, is to finish that work up. And so, again, we can take that offline and get back to you and review the owner's rep notes, but I would discourage the council from not approving this contract. I really believe this is in the best interest of the tenants and the owners moving into the project, that this get resolved as soon as we reasonably can. Thank you.
Thank you for that answer, Sarah, and I'm not trying to discourage us from approving this. To be clear, I think it's necessary work. My point here is that this work is costing us a lot more now than it would have cost us if the team had done their job in developing this project and noticing something that was pretty obviously missing on the construction documents from the beginning. And it's just further to my point that the city of Aspen is not an effective developer of multifamily property, and anyone who was developing in Aspen would have noticed this missing in their plans. It's like baffling to me that snow retention systems were missing from pitched roofs in Aspen. That's my point, but I am supportive of this work. It's obviously necessary for the safety and performance of the buildings. Thanks, gentlemen.
Thanks.
Bill, I share, I think, all of your concerns on this, and my notes reflect what you've just said. But I have a question that it seems that the city took at least the design. I want to be clear on this design coordination. Did the city design this? If the city designed it, is Ajax going to stand behind it? Or are we going to be liable because we helped design it? What is the liability?
So to answer your question, Ward, the project architect 359 design, as the architect of record, they designed the buildings and the roofs. The third-party snow retention company, TRA, in Salt Lake, they take those roof plans, and then they have their own in-house engineers and designers that design snow retention systems based on that, and then they stamp and warrant that design if it's installed per their plan. So they actually engineer the system, and then you find a roofing contractor to then do the installation, and they do it per those plans. Nothing was designed by the city specifically. We just identified the areas that we wanted snow retention, and then the snow retention company would design the system accordingly.
And TRA recommended Ajax.
Correct.
So we aren't going to be liable for any ice falls or because of the design work on the snow retention?
Yeah, I would be happy to talk with you about that further. Anyone can bring a claim for anything against the city. So I would not want to make presumptions of how that would go. But I will say is the city's taking reasonable steps to minimize risk. And we'll continue to do that if we're building these types of projects. And so should there be a dispute around this, we're going to look at the facts of the dispute to make a determination at that point. But it's pretty hard to hypothesize about it.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with Sarah. Just not a place to discuss this at this point.
And are we paying rent fees for the heat tape?
That is charged to the common area electric. The HOA pays that electricity bill for the heat tape.
I will go back and confirm, but I believe that there is a partial or full fee waiver on affordable housing for that particular part of the snowmelt system, but we will go back and confirm.
Okay. And I concur with Bill that this is I don't think it should have come to this point, and I wonder when we're going to stop having expenses for BG3. I'm happy that people are moving in, but I'm not excited about the way it was executed. And last of my notes is never again should the city be the developer. What else? And another question in my notes is what else was missed? Is this the end of it?
So I would also state this is not, I would call missed. There was a minimal amount of design that occurred, and then it's being field designed from there. That's not unusual to have some field design in projects. The second thing I would say is that the costs of this project are not over. There's a warranty period of which the council has agreed to, of which you will continue to experience expenses, and we will be recommending appropriations from the 150 fund to do that, through that. So you won't know when the end of that period is until the final closing on the project.
Okay, please get back on the rent fees. And
I saw Tyler taking notes.
yeah, and I agree that we should approve this, but I share Bill's frustrations.
Thank you, guys. Resolution 16 is the purchase of 601 Southwest End Street, Unit Number 13. Bill?
Thanks so much. First question, what is, prior to the purchase of this unit, what is the balance of the 505 fund today?
The ending balance, the end of 2023 is 5.5 million.
5.5, right?
Projecting ending balance for 2024 of 6.6 million.
5.5 was what you said first, right?
Yeah.
Thank you.
And that is without appropriations for this purchase,
Yes.
just that projection.
And you 6.4 without factoring in this
6.6.
601. 6.6, thank you. What is our goal of the number of units or bedrooms or FTEs to house in addition to what we're already housing from 505 fund dollars? And
Sure, the last council gave me a goal of 100%,
where are we?
nowhere near it.
Where are we?
We have a total of about, with this acquisition, I think we'll be at 83 or 84 units. Apologize, I can't remember which one it is right off the top of my head. But that's nowhere near when your full-time labor force is approximately 335 positions. So we are now behind, for example, the school district and the hospital and their ability to house their own employees.
Okay, so the goal was 100%. We have 83 or 84 units. Do I divide 83 or 84 by 400 full-time? Is that what you said?
You have approximately 335 full-time positions.
Is that the math I should do, or is there a percentage of how many?
It depends on what you want to house, whether you want to house any seasonal or part-time positions that are necessary to deliver services. So that's why it's not a clear number. That's why I was given direction to continue to go out as part of the Affordable Housing Strategic Plan is buy-downs. And the council decided to start exercising buy-down activity in the 505 fund and getting some experience with that before moving over and using 150 funds for buy-downs for the community's housing program.
Okay.
That's how we got
To
here.
be clear, I'm not trying to be critical here. We have no plan, it seems like. A plan of just 100% is not going to happen ever, for a variety of reasons. And we don't have enough money, and we'll never have enough 505 money to accomplish that. So I personally need some more clarity on where we stand today in terms of the number of FTEs and the number. I mean, I imagine there are some units where more than one resident works for the city full-time. Maybe that's not that common, but probably a couple of those. So I would really appreciate understanding how many of our 335, so we said?
I believe there's 335 in the last budget authorized. I'd have to go pull
I
it
would really
for sure.
appreciate how many of our 335 FTEs we're currently housing, and I'd appreciate a discussion on what a realistic goal for how total number of FTEs to be housed is out of 505 funds.
Sure, we'll come back to you. We are working on our internal affordable housing strategic plan. Most of that's not under the council's purview, really the finances of it, but the administration of the program is my responsibilities under the council direction. So I've set the criteria for accessing units and so on. What I would suggest to you, and also I'm just telling you the facts of what the history is with the councils on this, and so we are definitely in a situation where housing is continuing to be the #1 stress on our employees for both attraction of employees and, more importantly, retention of them. And so this is a highly critical program to meeting the community's expectations of service levels and goals of the council. This particular unit was brought to us, and this is happening more frequently. We have people who are invested in this community who don't want to put their house on the MLS yet, or their unit on the MLS yet. And they're coming to us and saying, we'd feel best if we could figure out a deal with the city, because then we know it's going to be a long-term resident of the community. I just want you to know that is a fact. That is what is happening. We have 2 more units right now we've been approached for that with here in the last 4 weeks. That's how this unit came about, was we were approached by a community member who wanted to have it be something that contributed to long-term community rather than a second or third home. So we can bring you back parts of that strategic plan once it's wrapped up. It's probably going to be finished here in early summer for you if you want to take a look at it. The other thing is that you remember you do have the authority of how much money goes into the 505 fund. That is a per FTE charge that is reviewed with the council in every budget process. It's currently $10,000. I would say it's not this council or the council that just left, but the one before that, there was serious consideration by the council of bumping that up to $25,000 per FTE per year because of a site we've contemplated developing. Just for City of Aspen employee housing and what happened just in that is the council said, let's do this, try the buy down route first before we go into the new development route. So that's how we got to where we are today and tonight's request to purchase this unit. Thank you.
Thanks. The only thing I would add is, as part of the information I'd like to see back on this is how many city FTEs are currently housed in APCHA housing, both rental and ownership. I'm really trying to get at what's our need here? What's our need today? How many are we currently housing in 505 housing, if that's the correct term? How many are we currently housing in APCHA housing? And what are we missing? What do we need? What should our realistic target be of units to acquire? That being said, I would like both 16 and 18 voted on separately tonight from the rest of the consent calendar. Thanks.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Scott, are the 5 units from BG3 already accounted for in the balance of 5.5 in the 505 fund?
Yes.
Okay,
Those were paid for in 2023.
okay. And I think it's great that people are coming to the city because they want to house longtime locals as employees and opting not to have their property used in other ways that don't really benefit the community.
Any other questions on this item? Thank you, guys. Resolution number 18 is amending the City of Aspen and Acro Tourism Promotion Fund Agreement. Bill?
Yeah, no specific questions here, just a strong opposition to this. ACRA hasn't taken occupancy yet. We're talking about extending the agreement to make a lease into August, if I'm not mistaken. I just think, given all of our interest in getting the armory up and running and getting work started in there, I think we should make a decision now not to explore this option with them and start focusing on some alternative options for them for office space. Unless I'm misunderstanding this somehow, I think we should just decide now to take the armory off the table as an office space option for them.
It does have implications on the agreement, the tourist fund agreement as a whole. We've been addressing this, kind of kicking it down the can down the road to make certain we all get on the same page. This comes up as an obligation through the 31st of January. If we don't take this amendment, then theoretically we're in default of our agreement. We're trying to avoid that. So that's why we're proposing this third amendment at this point. I think it's the third, right?
Third extension.
Third extension, yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's fair to, if we're not going to put APCHA in there, it's fair to them to give them as much heads up as possible, and for us to help explore alternative options for them. That's my ultimate point, and I don't think that putting them in there, if it comes to this fall, and we're hoping to get construction started in there at some point in '25, makes any sense for anyone, them or us.
So council, I'd encourage you, if you want this conversation, it should be agendized, and as well as that you can also choose whether that is an executive session to give meeting negotiation discussion, direction.
Thank you. Give me a minute, I need to look into some stuff. Maria, are you here on behalf of APCHA for this item?
I am. And Jennifer Albright-Kearney is on the web somewhere, in the World Wide Web. But I think I can.
Why don't you come on up to the table, introduce yourself. If you want to field some of the comments, I'll allow it.
Hi, I do want to clarify what this deadline is. There is a deadline that was set for last year to negotiate the temporary move of APCHA into the Armory. That was to accommodate the city's desire to renovate the power plant because we've leased it the power plant. So that was something that we did as an accommodation to the city because they were working out the schedule to renovate that. As I understand it, and maybe we can get confirmation from Jim because I don't have it in front of me, but all you would be doing by saying no is we would have the right to stay at the power plant, and we wouldn't be obligated to negotiate with you to move so that you could renovate it. The deadline that we're talking about is a temporary move that we did because the city asked us to do it. And we're trying to be a good partner here. And if you don't want to renovate the power plant, then fine, we'll stay there and not move 2 or 3 times, which was really what was the negotiated term.
Thanks. I think that furthers my previous comments that the city of Aspen should not be in the business of providing office space for APCHA. Thanks, Maria.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? Am I correct about the, yeah? Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. All right. In order to move this along, let me see if I can make a couple motions for us. I would make a motion to approve resolution number 16, purchase of 601 Southwest End Street, unit number 13.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote for resolution 16, please?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Not at this time.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes. I'd make a motion for approval of resolution number 18, amending the City of Aspen and APCHA Tourism Promotion Fund Agreement dated January 1, 2023.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Can we have a roll call vote for resolution number 18, please?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
No.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes. I would make a motion for the remainder of the consent calendar. That's resolution number 12, resolution number 13, resolution 14, resolution 15, and the draft minutes of January 9th, 2024.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? Could I have a roll call vote for the remainder of the consent calendar items, please?
Counselor Doyle,
Yes.
Counselor Youth,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
Yes. That'll bring us to next items on our agenda. Thank you to those staff members that were here for consent items. Have a wonderful evening. No notice of call-ups this evening, no first reading of ordinance. That will bring us to public hearings tonight. Public hearing tonight is ordinance number 26. This is 216 West Hyman Avenue, establishment of TDRs. We have seen this at first reading. This is second reading. There's a potential for this to be a short presentation.
It's 3 slides. Sorry.
For the record, Stuart Hayden, Historic Preservation Planner for the city. I'm here to convey the Historic Preservation Commission's recommendation that the City Council approve the establishment of up to 2 TDRs from 216 West Hyman Avenue. And I've prepared a presentation to provide context for this reading, but want to give council the opportunity to skip it and defer to the applicant and the applicant's representative. So it's up to you, as they have a presentation clearly ready to go. But I'll stay here to answer any questions.
All right, first I just want to make the record reflect that John Doyle has stepped out of the room due to proximity conflict. So he's within the 300 feet or yards or whatever it is, and so he's out of here. Okay, let's hold off on presentation at this time. Council members, do you have any immediate questions?
No.
Okay. This is a public hearing. Let me open the public hearing portion of this agenda item. Are there any members of the public that wish to speak to ordinance number 26? Seeing none, I'll close the portion of the hearing and bring it back to council tables. Would the applicant like to say anything?
Do I have this turned on?
Looks like it.
Okay. No, I think I've pardon me? Oh, thank you. No, thank you. Ann Mullins, Aspen citizen, 216 West Hyman. No, I've talked to you guys a couple of times about this, and you've been supportive. I'm very supportive of the TDR program. One, it is one of the few ways that longtime residents can regain some of the appreciation of, properties in town without having to sell a property and actually leave town. It also, if, and I suppose when this property gets redeveloped at some time, by severing some of the TDRs, it won't be overpowered by some addition in the back, which is a problem with some of our historic properties. And so hopefully it can maintain, we maintain the character of this property. And lastly, personally, as we get further into the project, I realize selling the TDR is allowing me to bring many things in the house up to code, which, unknowns to me, we're not up to code. So it's a real economic benefit for me to be able to get this house in really good livable shape again for the next however long. So if you have any other questions, those are my reasons for pursuing the TDRs.
Thanks, Ann. Any comments from staff?
Not in response to that, no.
Great, thank you.
I'll make a motion. Okay. I'll make a motion to pass ordinance number 26, series of 2023.
Second.
There is a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Can we have a roll call vote for ordinance number 26, please?
Counselor Guth,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to see
If
everybody.
you see John Doyle on your way out, we tell him we want to see him back in here.
Thank you.
With that, that'll bring us to our next item on our agenda tonight. That is resolution number 8. This is a request for Aspen Skiing Company for 2024 FIS World Cup race support.
Sorry, long walk. Do you guys, do you want to come up?
Get any, I think what we'll do is we'll have staff do its presentation, step back, and then the applicant, the requester can take a seat at the table to answer council questions.
Great.
So
Good
we'll,
yeah.
sorry, so
No,
we're gonna
that's-
just hit off with the World Cup. And we did not prepare a very long presentation for you, or if you don't want a presentation, the memo is pretty comprehensive of the ask and the situation. So we'll leave it to you, Mr. Mayor, to determine if you want us to present on either this or the X Games. Thank you.
Thank you. Council members, do you have any direct questions for staff? Sam?
Not, I don't know if this is a formal question, but in the recommendation, no waiver costs in the water utility fund. I don't know, what type of implication does that have towards their request? Because that is something that I believe in because of the stage 1 drought status in the town.
So last year, we can base it off last year's numbers. It was less than $10,000, but it's also depending on how much water, staff time, you know, there's so many variables. But last year, it was less than $10,000.
Okay, so easy for me to take off. If I
Are we still in stage 1? Didn't we get downgraded?
I'm
From
sorry,
2 to
last
1.
year, we were in stage 2. My apologies. And we are now in stage 1.
Thanks. Which is less severe, right? Stage 1's less severe.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
But I did latch onto that in the recommendation, so thank you.
I have a question for the applicant, I think.
Okay,
When
wait for
appropriate.
that. Any other questions of staff? Any more detail that you want around what you've got in your memo?
I had a question if APCHA chipped in at all last year.
I believe
Yes.
they
The
were at
answer is yes.
75.
Same dollar amount.
Yes.
Okay.
75 last year.
If there's anything that you wanted to share, we're open to it, but we don't have any current questions, and we'll wait for the applicant. Thank you, guys.
Hello, how are you?
Hi.
Derek Gunshore, Aspen Skiing Company. John Rigney sends his regards. He was unable to attend tonight. He really wanted to be here, but just wanted me to express that he graciously appreciated the spirit of the partnership of working together with council and staff over the years, and we don't take the support for projects like this for granted. It's another example of how we as an entire community differentiate ourselves from the rest of the ski towns out there. So I just wanted to share that with you because he, wanted to, I have some other stuff to say, but I'm happy to answer your question first or however you guys want to.
prefer.
Yeah.
I'm happy to start. Thank you. Firstly, thank you for all you guys do.
Yeah.
I know that these events and many other things you do are huge productions and take a lot of resources and coordination, and it isn't always about the profit motive on some of these events and some of the things that you do, and I appreciate that. My question revolves around timing. I guess to put it bluntly, like, why are we discussing this now, right before these events? Why is this not something happening long in advance? Like, if you don't get the money from us, and the event is coming up so soon anyways, like, what happens? Why doesn't this get discussed earlier?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of process, and it's not totally in our control under like when it gets discussed. Like, this was just part of the timeline that through the application process, through our conversations with the city. I know that John has had conversations with Sarah on and off, going all the way back to last summer and recapping out of it. Same with Nancy and I. And the blunt answer is that Aspen Skiing Company carries the day. Like, we know that if we don't get the city support, we're on the hook for it. I think it's based on the history of it. We've really relied on the collaboration with the city, and I think in the memo it details that historically, from what I started, this will be my 20th World Cup year in Aspen, starting back to '04. We had the races in November, and everyone probably recalls that for 15 plus years, we did races in November. And it was, you know, because we were prepping during the off season in the build up to the event, and the requirements and the parameters around what we did and what we committed just weren't as major as they are now. There wasn't it was mostly a financial, an in-kind request to the city. And so the cycle has just been flipped a little bit, and we've honestly been on our heels the last couple years. This year we've caught up a bit and are kept to the timelines that the city and we've set for ourselves in terms of planning and permitting and all those things. But that change has really been based on the FIS calendar. They don't approve their World Cup calendar till September. So we didn't get final approval from the FIS on this season's World Cup calendar formally until actually the last week of September, which is crazy, not only to you, but us too. And like many organizations out there, they have new leadership, and processes have changed, and people are doing different things, like the city, like us, everyone. And so we've just been working through it, and we've found that hosting these races are an incredible opportunity for our town and for us to show off what we are as a ski town and deliver something free for the community. I mean, there's so few free things out there anymore. And this is one of a handful of World Cup races on the entire tour where you can go and watch in the grandstands for free. Almost all of them charge for tickets. And we're bringing in bands at the caliber of that are performing 2 nights at Red Rocks this summer and doing them for free in the park. So, you know, I'd say the financial risk is on us for sure. And the timing has just been the nature of the planning cycle. So it's not ideal for us either, that's for sure. The X Games one is a little bit different. I think that's more process oriented. And, you know, I don't know if Sarah wanted to talk to that at all, but yeah.
Well, thank you for that very good insight for me. Helps me understand it a little bit better. I would encourage, if there's any way to even have sort of a schematic discussion earlier, that in the future we do it earlier so that we can share some feedback with you, sort of maybe like fairly immediately after the preceding event, and we talk about what we would like to see differently for the future. You know, I'm a huge proponent of events like this. You know, stir things up, make things more exciting in Aspen, bring new people to Aspen, spread the word about Aspen. I'm supportive of all that. I love the energy around it. I would also love to see some data that might show what the economic impact to Aspen is from certain events. Like, I don't have a problem, you know, putting additional funds beyond what's been requested historically, if we can say, listen, this makes mathematic sense. It's like we're generating, you know, an additional X millions of dollars of economic activity in Aspen versus a typical weekend when this event might happen. So
That's a totally fair point.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like that, so I kind of have to go by my gut. But again, I love what you do. I love all these things. I'd encourage even more. Would love to have the conversation sooner.
Yeah, for sure. No, us too. And we've worked, you know, X Games has done some economic impact studies before. Ours, we did some analysis based on skier visits and trends last season on what the week of World Cup looked like from mostly we've focused it around the lodging impacts and the skier visits, because that's just data that we have at our hands. And what we found is that it really compressed it created some compression that week, which elevated the rates at the hotels, which is generating tax, right? Putting a quantity on that is a little bit challenging because you don't know exactly what you would get if it weren't there. The other interesting piece to it is that it creates compression on the weeks around it because we're booking, you know, I think we peak out about 500 rooms per night that we've booked throughout the Upper Valley. It's displacing when guests may come and they may pick another week. So then it's also then creating the next week is then busier because some people have chosen to take their ski vacation when there's availability on rooms. So it's, you know, they may have come anyway, so it doesn't have an impact on the event, but it's certainly a tale of the process. So anyway.
Thanks.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it's immeasurable, the good press internationally that we get from World Cup race. and you look at a World Cup race in Europe, most of the time it's a white ribbon down a green forest. And last year they show Aspen live throughout Europe. And I mean, the white circus is a big deal, just like F1 is a big deal in Europe. And the Tour de France is a big deal. The Americans, I don't think, have a full grasp of what a big deal the World Cup race is. I was in the ski business for the first 9 years I lived in town, and back in the late 70s, early 80s, enjoyed hiking up the hill and watching Stenmark and the mares. And I will put a little barb in here for FIS. You know, they come into town and they park wherever they want, whenever they want. So I would like to see some encouragement to the FIS, to the teams, to be respectful of the town, the traffic, the parking regulations, and traffic. And just another little poke at FIS. They told us a number of years ago we'd never see another World Cup race until we had a new lift at 1A. And they reversed position on that. I'm happy to see the races back here, but those are just my little.
Yeah. Yeah, they did. I sat in some pretty tense meetings over that. And the leadership team at the FIS that drew that firm line in the sand, they got the boot. And the new staff came in and said, like, look, like, Aspen is the place where we can make ski racing bigger in the U.S. And they need to showcase the sport in places like Aspen, and they specifically identified that, and that's a directive from the president of the FIS, that this is a place that they think that they can help grow the sport, and we're a part of that, and it's super cool to be included there. So
yeah, as we emerge from the quiet years, I mean, World Cup racing, ski racing was a integral part of making Aspen what it is today, and I enthusiastically support. And I have a couple of questions about the funds and what it was last year out of our pocket, what it is this year, in kind. And I agree to the $3,000 that's budgeted to waive for the water. I don't want to waive that.
Okay.
$3K isn't much.
No, I mean, we understand that, and I think to your point on the white road, we've put climate at the fore of what we've done in hosting these races. Last year, we brought the melted gondola down to the park. We had a Protect Our Winners climate panel, and this year Protect Our Winners will be back again, and we're still planning on making sure that that is at the front of the message that we're sharing at this. So, and we understand, and really the water use is to protect Wagner. I mean, we know it's an important asset to the town, and we don't want to mess it up and collaborating with the Parks Department to make sure that it's really protected as best as possible.
So, and I don't know if this goes to the applicant or to a question I have about the total out of pocket with the $3,000 and the $75K from APCHA. It looks like a city out of pocket at this point is $203,059, but that's not casted. Those numbers might change. Is that correct?
That's last year, I think.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The 2024 request is listed under financial impacts. It's $100,000 cash, and at this point, the estimate of in-kind services requested is $181,000 and basically $181,000. So the current request before you is $281,000 of services, which is a substantial increase from the 2023 level of support.
Okay, so the $75,000 for APCHA.
Does not come out of there.
Does not include any ACRA numbers. These are only things that are within the council's spending authorities.
Okay, so with the $3,000, it'd be $284,059. If we don't all that waiver added.
No, the waiver includes, as it's broken down under fee waivers and in-kind services, it shows you the impact per fund is currently estimated.
Yeah, and that's $181,059, but if we don't waive that,
You would subtract it from the waiver.
Right.
It would go down to 1,878 something, yeah.
I would note that the resolution's written with 3 blanks to be provided. Here are not one total. Sorry.
We were just confirming that was the security guy pulling on the door, not someone else. Sorry for the distraction.
Okay, other comments, John and then Sam.
Yeah. I think everybody at this table at least knows that I'm a huge fan of World Cup skiing. I volunteered the last couple races that have been here, and I intend to be up there volunteering this go-round. What concerns me, what I struggle with is, and I think Francie Jacober brought this up at a county commissioners meeting, is the prevalence of VIP areas at almost every event now, and the amount of money that I think that's bringing in. I'm looking at your website right now, and the Aspen Winter National Premium Experience at the race finish and the Wagner Lounge, that includes both the VIP tent at the base of the race and the VIP tent at Wagner Park, $2,400 for a 3-day weekend. That's a significant amount of money, and these are very well-attended events, and that's where I struggle with asking the taxpayers of Aspen to chip in this amount of money in in-kind services for an event that, well, I think we all profit from it. And I don't know, I struggle a little bit with asking. The in-kind stuff I think is appropriate, but I'm not sure exactly how I feel about the ask for money.
Yeah, that's fair. I will say this, like, with the, we have a budget of what we need to sell on the VIP pass front. Like, even with us beating budget, we are still, as a company, spending significant sums to host this race. So it is by no means like, are we using taxpayer funds to be a profit? And that VIP is one component of the revenue to help us offset the total exposure and expense that we have. And it's a great risk for us to take on those sales. And the number that we sell, is up to the community to decide to purchase that. And I will say, like, while we do provide that as an option, we maintain the value in what the spectators get from a free standpoint. We still invest in the LED boards. We're putting extra LED boards beyond so people can watch the race from multiple locations, including Wagner, along the course. And the grandstands are bigger. I mean, if anyone visited the races down the road over Beaver Creek, our bleachers are more than twice the size of that. And I think that shows as a testament to our investment in hosting the community for free. And so while I hear your point and it is valid, I will say, like, that is just one revenue component as an option for the people that want to experience the races in that way. And it is by no means displacing or detracting from what we're providing for free. We don't, prioritize that. In fact, the grandstands are in the priority position looking straight up at that finish line and race course. So I hear you, and it's something that we also struggle with because we do it, but people want that experience. We rely on as many different funding sources as possible to reduce our expense and exposure, and we still end up spending significant sums of money to make this happen. So it's far from a profitable thing to do this. So
Understood. Just the uniforms that you provide for the volunteers is a tremendous expense. I understand that.
Yep.
And again, I'm a huge fan of this event coming to Aspen. I'd love to see it here every year.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, the other piece to it is, we're seeing 2 to 3 times the rate costs on most things that we have to provide and buy for the event. So racer meals, rentals of any equipment and tents and infrastructure. Hotels is one of the largest line items of what we pay, and that then taxes are collected on all of that. So, that's where I think we really try and come up with a fair number of what we're contributing economically by bringing people to town, but then also spending directly back into the city coffers through the tax, because everything that we buy or rent or use in the town at the event is sales tax for the town for the city is collected on that. So it does come back from an economic standpoint.
I appreciate that.
Yep.
Thanks, Sean. Sam?
And for me, the World Cup is one of the things that make me most proud to live in Aspen. Shameless plugs, I grew up ski racing. My English bulldog's name is Tomba. Tomba came to the World Cup here in 1991 and won the slalom. And I always think that's a very serendipitous path in life for me to have that happen. Very excited for the slalom to come this year. And I think the World Cup also adds to the cultural aspect that Aspen does. The sales tax revenue. The Mount Joy concert last year was amazing in Wagner Park. I think the Revivalists are the name that I latch onto this year, which is going to be wonderful. All that said, I do want to comment on John's comment as far as just like the VIP stuff. I do think it sounds like you're doing everything you can to keep the free aspect free, and just, you know, you need to make your money somewhere. So I hope it has that feel that you described, and I trust it will. It did last year. I hope it does this year. I just want to be clear, the increase in funding from last year to this year, does that come from the sponsorship request, or is there somewhere else where that $100,000 increase is coming from, really?
The request for 2023 was $100,000, and that was granted in 2023. That's the request again for 2024. There's a substantial increase in in-kind services, about an $80,000 increase in those. And a lot of that is the long-term parking impacts that will happen. And then, as you can see in the breakdown, so the parking impacts in particular, we calculated it at several thousand days worth of parking that are being impacted by the event. And that's why you're seeing that number. The second thing I would say is that, quite frankly, our labor costs are higher. Every year they're higher. And so it's reflected in that as well.
And I guess my one question with that, I was trying to make a point there, is if the World Cup comes back next year, I don't want to get into a slippery slope where we feel like we're just increasing the cost to the city year after year after year. Would you say that this request was like a learning aspect from last year, and that's why it is what it is? And because I'd love to see the World Cup come back every year, but I definitely want to make sure we're good fiduciary of city time and tax dollars.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, I would say that. I think we had a lot of lessons learned from our work with the different departments on process and parking and how to manage it. You know, we do rent a considerable number of parking spaces, not just from the city, but we have a trade deal, you know, a deal with the St. Regis to park some teams there, a deal with the Aspen Meadows. We're trying to, you know, reduce as much parking. We're running special shuttles for staff to try and reduce as much of the driving. And the parking spaces is really consolidated in and around the 1A area, and some of it is calculated based on us providing and reserving some spaces for a long period of time, as Sarah referenced, in residential areas for those residents. So we close the spaces, for example, on Juan Street, for the Juan Street residences. We sign them, we permit them, and then they are fee is included here as part of the calculation. So while they're event spaces and we're paying for it, they're being done on behalf of the residences in some areas.
Council, and I'll tell you, I don't think we should be discussing it at this detail. This is a consistent policy with every event, and I'm pretty disappointed, actually. It just came up after a direct conversation with Derek about this last week. This impact to the neighborhood is significant, and this would not be necessary but for the event. And so Pete is here as well if you want to talk about the neighborhood impacts in the parking front. His team has spent a considerable amount of time preparing for this, and I'm happy to bring him to the table if you would like an overview of how the parking department handles these requests from all kinds of events in the community.
Your Honor, I'd like to move that we approve.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to say anything, so I'll ask you to hold that motion, if you will.
Okay, I will just say that my daughter had surgery today, and I had to pick up a prescription for her before Carl's, our city.
Gotcha.
So I got to bow out for right now.
Okay. Do you have any further comments?
Yes. I guess I was wondering if you had seen the packet that was recommended to us, and because I wanted to tell you, I hope to go with staff's recommendation. as far as that goes, with those caps on those in-kind services, and I just wanted to tell you that and let you comment on that if you had any comments as to reasons why or why not.
Yeah, I mean, I have reviewed it for sure, and I understand the desire to cap and redo it, and, you know, we understand the severe impact of this, and I do think that, you know, like, what we end up having to pay and or support or do as part of this will certainly impact our future decisions on our ability to do things like this, you know? We will take on the extra expense. We've taken that risk, to your point. And we've worked with the city and each individual department to make sure that we're doing it right. And because we want to do it right, we want to make sure that it's there for the residents. We're managing the FIS and the parking and where they're parking and all those aspects to it. And if that's the cost and that's the decision of the council, we'll certainly accept that for what it is. But I think it gives us, like, the cost of doing everything, cost of labor, cost of everything is astronomical, and us being able to rally together as a community. I think there are certainly hard costs in here for the city that are included in the fee waiver in terms of staff time and resources and dedication, and we want to cover that. You know, some of the parking is parking in residential areas that doesn't have a revenue associated to it, and it's a process, and that's how the city does it, and we totally accept that, and we know that we have an impact, and we need to do that for the residences and don't dispute that at all. But it's not, in our view, it's not money out of the city's pocket, because if we weren't doing it, no one would be paying for those spaces. Someone else may, but I don't know who else in town is going to bring a World Cup to Aspen.
No, and I appreciate that. I really wanted you to say those things, and I just want to say back, I hope we can be good negotiators in good faith in the future years of many, many, many World Cups. Great. But I just wanted to protect us this year with that recommendation, so thank you.
Thanks. I'll wait for that in the motion then.
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll make my comments quickly. First, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
This year, on the merchandise, T-shirts, jackets, hats, and the like, is the word Aspen going to be on those items?
Very big.
Because I noticed last year that was absent.
Yep.
And,
that is a little bit outside of my purview and control. We have a team that does merchandise and apparel. But yes, the new logo has Aspen Winter National featured very prominently. And so that is on everything. Merchandise, T-shirts, hats, everything says Aspen Winter National super prominently.
I appreciate that. I also appreciate what you provided in the memo regarding the other sponsorship treatment that the city of Aspen will receive for any funds that we are giving to you. You know what I got to say is times have changed a little bit, right? Regardless of things getting more expensive and stuff, I think also the city council's responsibility and the way that we're looking at taxpayer dollars and the needs that we have in the city are kind of different as well. So while last year might have been around $200,000, this year is kind of around $300,000. These dollars are getting more and more serious to all of us, you as well as us. And you heard some questions along a spectrum of kind of concerns. You know, for me, I think that these funds, as well as the next request that's coming to us, are more appropriately, the cash part of it, not the in-kind, but are more appropriately to come out of the destination marketing and managing funds that are collected by our lodging tax. And so I think that these conversations, along the lines of what Bill was saying, they deserve more conversation over a longer time period. And I think as we look towards next year, we should open that dialogue up sooner than later so that we can all come to some resolve around how we get these things done. We at this table are really forced into a really good position about transparency, and we try to provide as much transparency around the decisions and the funding that we do. And so it would help us in the future if we can kind of have some of those conversations ahead of time. With that, I kind of look to Sarah to see if other council members feel the same, to say, Sarah, as we move forward towards next year, maybe there's some different conversations regarding where these funds come from. I noticed in the reso that, these are clearly delineated as out of the general fund reserve. And, you know, the general fund is our opportunity to really provide services for our community. And I think this falls outside of that. So for the future, I see nodding head on this end of the table and this end of the table. So I think that, you know, we could direct the city manager to look for different opportunities as we go forward in the future. With that, thanks for being here. Thanks for the work that you're about to partake over the next couple months, my man. You know, and for full disclosure, I've known Derek for a long time, since X Games. I think probably even started coming here or what have you. And it's always been a joy to work with you, man. So I appreciate you. I do recognize that I thought last year was a difficult World Cup.
It was.
And just your acknowledgement of that means a lot to me. So thank you. I'm glad that you recognize it as well.
We learned a lot of lessons. You know, I will say we had a 15-year run from when I first started till the finals in 2017, where we really had the same team in place, and we had the same process in place. We had people in the same positions, and last year was a little bit of a shotgun World Cup, and you know, we really I was in a new role. I had been around it before. We had an entirely new team working around the event, and so we were definitely chasing our tails. And we learned a lot of lessons. We took those in, and we took a lot of notes, and we heard all the feedback from the city, city staff, you know, other leaders throughout the community, the lodges, the FIS, the ski team, and took it all in. And we feel very confident in our plan for this year that we're in a much better spot. Obviously, we're waiting for the weather to cooperate on a few things, and you know, we need the ducks to align. But yeah, we recognize that too. It wasn't our best show. And that's, you know, 6 years of rust. 6 years off was a lot. It was the longest break Aspen has ever had from hosting a World Cup since 1968. So,
thank you for that.
Yeah, it happens, you know.
I appreciate it.
Yep.
All right, with that, that's comments. Somebody wants to make them, yes?
Just before the motion, if I
Yes.
could just say one thing, you know, I'm super supportive of what you mentioned of potentially using the tourism fund dollars for events like this and contributing those dollars for events like this. Like not all of the tourism spend needs to be on advertisements.
Right.
And I think some of the work that APCHA has been doing lately, I'm not sure is delivering the impact that it's hoped for. So I do think that this would be a great use of those dollars, and I'd be interested in exploring with staff what the mechanics of making that happen are in the future.
Great, thank you.
Probably too late to do it for this year, which is part of the reason why I would have loved to have these conversations earlier, but definitely as we look into the future, that's something I'll have on my mind.
Great. I think this, the way this reso sits in my packet is that it has some blanks that need to be filled in. So the motion will need to include specifics for the blanks that need to be filled in. Sam, do you want to give it a shot?
I'll make a motion to pass resolution number 8, and I'm looking to the recommendations in the packet of maximum appropriations of $100,000 cash and $105,000 in kind from a combination of fee waivers and staff time, and then also no waiver of costs in the water utility fund due to the enterprise-based work in the stage 1 drought status in the town. Please let me know if I did it correctly, to be specific enough.
I'll get you the number for that second bullet versus the third.
Yeah, there
Right.
are three bullet points with blanks. First one was clearly $100,000, I believe.
I'm doing the math right now.
Okay.
So just to clarify that staff understands your motion would be distribute funding of up to $100,000 to Aspen Skiing Company from the general fund reserve balance, waive fees in the parking fund and the open space fund, up to $107,225 in the parking fund and $39,834 in the parks and open space fund. I know it's collectively that totals $147,059.
Okay.
So moved.
So it's if you want to waive all of those fees, if that's what you meant with your motion.
I'm not sure that's what you meant, though, Sam. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, that's why it's a good
I was doing the
clarification.
recommendation. I meant to put a maximum cap on.
And you used the number 105 as staff wrote under the recommendation.
Yes.
Paragraph, right?
Yeah.
So
Would it actually be 178 something?
So what you can choose to do in this case with your motion on the floor is you can tell me you're not differentiating between fees and staff time, and what we'll do is apply it to fees first, and then the remainder we would apply towards staff time at whatever that cap is. And this particular case means that SKICO would actually pay cash because some of the fee waivers are greater than the $105,000.
I believe I understood that enough to.
Your intention, and I'm asking you, your intention was to make a motion to approve the fee waivers and in-kind staff time and associated equipment. That is the total, I think you just said, 178. The only
Yeah.
thing that you are trying to take out is the water fee.
Which is 3,000.
Is that correct?
Yes.
That's where he's trying to get.
Gotcha, thank you.
Which would be $178,059 as a maximum amount of fee waivers and in-kind services.
Correct.
Hopefully it's understood. Please let me know if it's not.
So it's 100 plus 178, right?
Basically.
Well, I'll second, and I'd like to have a little discussion on it.
Great. We have a motion and a second. Further discussion.
I think just from a fiduciary standpoint, does it make, Sam's motion, if we have consensus support with it, is generally fine with me, but if the direction is to go more with the staff recommendation and have a cap on the in-kind services, I'm wondering if it makes more sense to actually give the in-kind services and reduce our cash commitment, given that it is reserve general funds or general fund reserve account. And, I'd like to have that cash on hand for a reserve sort of situation if there's something that comes up. And, an example of that is like what Snowmass Village went through this past year with the unanticipated sinkhole and huge sewer repair. I'm sure was not in their budget, and that's what reserve dollars are for. So again, I'm fine with the motion as Sam presented it, but if others are thinking that we're going to go with the staff recommendation, I'm wondering if we should rethink the way that it's configured between in-kind and cash.
If I'm reading this correctly, isn't it only 23,000 coming from the general fund and the rest comes from Parks and Open Space and Parking Fund?
I was relying on what Tori said, but if that's what it says, then that's a little different.
The cash comes from the general fund
Cash
reserve.
comes from the general fund.
Okay. Which is the 100,000.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, that has to come from the general fund reserve, and then you would see appropriations for these in-kind services in each of these funds in your spring supplemental to cover them because they're not budgeted expenses.
Correct. Bill, thank you for support, a second and support in this. This is the conversation that needs to happen over the next 12 months for the next event. At this time, and I don't mean to be between a rock and a hard place, and I don't think we are. But I think in order to be successful here, move this forward, have a wonderful event, I would support the motion that is on the floor at this time. And then we can start making moves for this for the future. We're signaling now, hey, look, times are a little different. Things are gonna be different. But where we're at right now, this is something that the city can contribute, so I would support the motion as made.
So just for clarity for everyone, then the first blank is 100,000. The fee waiver blank for the two funds is 147,059. The staff time waiver is approximately 31,000. I need to know if there's any kind of cap above that because there are several unknowns based upon weather conditions in that number.
In the staff time number?
Right, so you have a big snowfall, easily my snow removal hours could double based upon what's in the current estimate. So I would encourage you to think about what number you want in that third if you plan to provide a buffer or hold it to the estimate.
And what did you say it would sit at now with no buffer?
31,000.
Thank you.
Up to 50?
Great.
Yeah, up to 50,000 in that third column then, as of my friendly amendment to the motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second now. Ward, just for clarification, in the reso, it would read as follows. I don't have the second two numbers. The first one is the 100,000. We are okay with that right now. The fee waivers for parking fund and open space. Sarah, you said 140.
$147,059.
And then the last line, Ward, in the resolution would be staff time and associated equipment up to 50. Current request is 31, but with city manager's condition of saying, hey, do you want a max cap? We're setting.
I want to make sure, I want to be clear, I am not recommending it. Like, this is not my recommendation, and I don't
Not
want to be
recommending.
associated with it.
She's saying that
Suggested.
put some sort of number there. So the number could be, as requested, 31, that we could have staff overruns that we could either absorb. Sam's amended his motion to take that up to 50,000. The city manager's comments were in regard to the fact that weather dependent, you could see that 31 be 62. You're caught up on the motion on the floor.
Thank you.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Can we please have a roll call vote for resolution number 8? Resolution number 8. Yes.
Counselor Doyle,
Yes.
Counselor Guth,
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein,
Yes.
Counselor Rose,
Yes.
Mayor Tory.
I'm a yes. Thank you for listening to all our comments. That took a little bit longer than we wanted, but this is very important and serious to all of us. And it's a difficult and fine line sometimes for us with support, financial responsibilities to our community, and then ski racing.
Totally understand.
Who doesn't love it?
No, I totally understand. And we value your opinion, partnership, and the staff's time, and we'll make it as efficient as possible and really appreciate the support. And one thing I did forget to mention is we are actually required to provide a VIP space per the FIS rules, so we don't have a choice in it in some ways. Just
Thank you. That'll bring us to our next item on our agenda, which is resolution number 17. This is the funding for the Aspen Skiing Company as well for support for the X Games.
I'll handle this on the staff side. I currently do not have authority to issue this check, and so if you wish to support X Games in this final year, the number is $137,500 is the request from SkiCo. You don't have a request letter because this has been done verbally, so I need your assistance in order to meet the auditor's requirements if you wish to support the event.
Thank you. Council, comments, questions?
I mean, for me, almost the exact same comments and
Yeah.
as the prior one. Definitely something I'd like to be discussing earlier. What I learned in preparing for this is that this is year 5 in a 5-year contract agreement with X Games. So if this is going to be happening again in the future, which to be clear, I'm very hopeful it will be, I'd like to have some conversations, have the opportunity for the city of Aspen to weigh in and give our feedback on the event and any, potential tweaks we'd like to see, and be able to express our support and be able to understand the impact to our community, good, bad, and indifferent. So, yeah, very similar comments. Thanks again for all you do.
And then, question to council here is the number that's requested, 137.5, is not something that you are compulsory to agree to. If there's some other a number that is more befit for your take on it, you're more than welcome to suggest that and even make a motion. I don't know about this 5-year contract. I don't think it was an actual contract. That's a different conversation. But again, for me, this is monies that should be coming out of the tourist destination and marketing funds, especially this one as opposed to World Cup. World Cup is providing community access and community event. So there is something to be said for that. On the X Games side, I think there's a little bit less of that. This year as well with the X Games, they're charging for viewing at the X Games. That's something new. they have been charging for concerts, I believe, that for years, but there has been a community involvement there. So the monies that we're spending here, there's also a whole different relationship over there. This used to be the ESPN Winter X Games. It has since sold, so there's a little different dynamic going on here. So again, my overriding comment is that I think that this request should not be coming to the city council table, but it should be looking for funding out of the destination marketing and management funds. Other council comments at this time?
Seconded your comments and seconded Bill's comments. That's my comment.
Thank you.
Yep.
We have a resolution in front of us. If anybody wants to make a motion for this or another take.
We got no other take, so I'll make I'll make a motion to pass resolution number 17. It's getting late, but
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Can we have a roll call vote for resolution number 17?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
yes.
Mayor Tory?
Okay, yes.
Mr. Mayor, while these are noticed topics, is tonight the appropriate time for me to get direction if I should start signaling that the city will no longer be making cash contributions in future budget years on these items at this point? It would just be helpful if I understood that, or if that's something that needs to be done in executive session, because I heard informally a majority of you make those statements in your consideration of these two resolutions.
I think you need to bring that back at another time. I don't know about executive session, but you certainly can get direction to, what was your word, noodle?
It's just pretty unclear direction right now of what I'm being asked to do, and it was specifically mentioned giving the city manager direction in those conversations. So whether you want to agendicize this for the next council meeting, we can do that as well.
I would like to have some information and discussion on what our ability to direct the tourism and marketing funds, is that the correct term? You know, can we specifically direct that? Do we have to amend our agreements with APCHA to require it? I would like to understand those mechanics before I can give you a specific answer on your question of whether we're going to not make those cash contributions anymore. But I do think that, at least for Tori and I, maybe some of the others, there's agreement on the money's coming out of the wrong place.
I would say agendicize this so we can think about it very clearly and
I
thoroughly.
agree.
Thank you. I move to go to.
Mr. Mayor, an executive session is being proposed pursuant to CRS Section 246402-4A, purchase, acquisition, lease, transfer, and sale of real, personal, or other property interests. For B, conferences with an attorney for the local public body for the purpose of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions. For E, determining positions relative to matters that may be subject to negotiation, developing strategy for negotiations, and instructing negotiators. The specific items for discussion tonight involve the ongoing litigation of the Centennial Owners Association versus City of Aspen et al., case number 215 CV 030158 and case number 217 CA 2099. And the second item is the lease to 427 Rio Grande Place. If council votes to go into executive session, the executive session will be recorded. Recording will be maintained by the clerk for a period of not less than 90 days. As always, we will convene the executive session in electric pass downstairs. We will not return to this room to adjourn. The meeting will be adjourned downstairs.
I'll make a motion to enter executive session.
Seconded.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Counselor Doyle?
Yes.
Counselor Guth?
Yes.
Counselor Howenstein?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mayor Tory?
Yes. Thank you, as always, to Grassroots. We will be going into executive session, and we will not be coming out to conduct any more business, and therefore we will be concluding our adjourning our meeting, our regular meeting. Thank you all for watching, and we hope to see you soon. Enjoy the X Games.